I'm a Seventh-day Adventist Christian. In fact, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist pastor in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Not because they're so great and so intelligent and so knowledgeable. In fact, the Bible has some wonderful things to say about our church. But because they preach the truth. Or at least they have the truth written in their doctrines. And I stand by that truth, and I stand by this church. And I became a Seventh-day Adventist, as I always say, feet first, kicking and screaming. I even go further than that. I'm very naughty. I say I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, not because of Seventh-day Adventists, but in spite of them. Is that very naughty? Yes, it's naughty. But I've met the most wonderful people in this church, and I've met the most horrendous opposition in this church. So I feel that maybe I'm just a little bit qualified to speak on the issue, having felt it myself, having experienced it myself, having walked this walk myself, and still remaining in this church in spite of everything that happened. And that's important to me. And why is it important to me? And why is it so important that I'm willing to make a series and to put my head on a block? Why would I do that? Am I a sucker for punishment? Why would I do something like that? I'll tell you why. I don't get tens, I don't get hundreds, I get thousands of people telling me, why should I join this church of yours? These things you speak about, don't we find them all in your church as well? Why should I become a Seventh-day Adventist? Having just escaped the confusion of the world out there, how do I know that I'm not putting my foot into a bigger mess than I came from? How do I know? And it gets very, very hard sometimes in the light of the events of the world out there to convince people that that's the right thing to do. Why should they do it? And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give them a reason to do it anyway. And look at our poor church. Look at the condition it's in. How many people have left it and have formed their own little groups over here and their own little groups over there for whatever reason? Some of them because they find this staunch church on the inside that's completely asleep, or stoic, or whatever, or boring, and they want to liven it up, and so they start their celebration churches, and they're this, and eventually they're out of the ranks. Many, many churches all over the world, they start like that and they're gone. Isn't it a tragedy? And then you have the other extreme that says, look at all those unholy people in that church. And they raise an eyebrow, and they have a long list of all the mistakes and the errors, and they separate themselves, and they say, we need reform. And they call themselves whatever. And they form their own groups, and they're perfect. We've got them too. Don't we have them? We have them everywhere. They're perfect. If we want to go to heaven, we need a total transformation. We need it as individuals, and we need it as a church. And the time has come to speak about these things, because we are told that the straight testimony will cause the, help me, shaking. Do I want to see people shaken? No. Do I want to see enemies removed from the church? No. I want them transformed. You know, I think at some stage in David's life, his favorite text was, "How I hate them with a perfect hatred, them that hate thee." Didn't he say that? Yes, he said that. But Jesus came and he qualified it. He said, "Bless them that, whether they curse you or whether they persecute you, love those that do these things." I had a man get up in my series the other day. That was just very recently, talking about weeks now. And he went ballistic in an African country. One of these groups that had separated themselves from the church because the church was so apparently fallen. And he told me all the things that they did that were wrong. Publicly. And after listening to him for quite a while, he said, "I love the truth, and these people trample the truth." And I said to him, "Brother, it's easy to love the truth. It's easy to love Jesus. That's not your test. Try and love the brethren. That's your test." And that is something which is very, very hard to do. Ask anyone who's had their corns trampled. It's very hard to do. But that's what we will have to do. We will have to have a total transformation. And with that introduction, let me ask you, who do you belong to? And let's put in some typology and see whether we can see a little connection as an introduction to this course. It's Romans chapter 12, verse 2. "And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is the good and acceptable and perfect will of God." Not only out there, but in here. That's what we'll have to discover. What is God's will? In other words, if I don't have this transformation, I will not have discernment. I will not be able to distinguish between right and wrong. So it's absolutely essential. Isaiah chapter 43, verse 1. "And now says the Lord that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel, fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name, thou art mine." Who do you belong to? You belong to Christ. On the strength of what criteria? You are his by creation. I have created you. And you are his by redemption. He has redeemed you. He's paid the price. You are doubly his. You are not your own. You were bought with a price. I cannot be like I was before. Do you know, it's wonderful to make the transition. Here I was an atheist. Now I'm a believer. Wonderful. I believed in evolution. Now I believe in creation. Great. I didn't believe in Jesus. It was a mythology. It was a pathetic story of a sugar daddy God to me. And now I believe in Jesus and I believe in the plan of salvation. Am I saved by making that transition? Yes or no? Am I saved by my knowledge? No. It's easy to believe that I could be saved by my knowledge. That's nothing. All I'm doing is changing a set of parameters in my mind and saying, I used to believe this, but now I believe that. I'm not saved by any of that. It's important that I believe the truth. How would I know how to get somewhere if I don't have a road map? Isn't that right? All these things are important, but they do not save me. If I have a medicine and I believe in the medicine, but I don't apply the medicine, can it help me? Obviously not. I have to apply it.
Are we teaching the truth in love, telling it like it is. Are we holding pure motives, showing that we care? Are we teaching the truth?